Okay, I think we might get started. Okay, hello everyone and good morning and welcome to our fireside chat. My name is Olive Cogan and I'm an e-commerce manager at Net Affinity. I'm very excited about our topic this morning. We're going to be discussing how Fitzwilliam Hotel Belfast boosts direct bookings through guest engagement. So this morning I'm joined by William Cotter, Lucy Clugston and Will Howes. So we might just go around the table first and if you can introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Lucy Clugston. I'm the Digital Marketing Executive at the Fitzwilliam Hotel in Belfast, and I oversee all marketing online communications with the hotel.
Great, thanks Lucy. William?
Yeah, thank you. How are you going?
You go, Will.
So good morning. I'm Will Howes. I work for Revenate. I'm Senior Regional Manager of EMEA, and I work with hotels coming on board the Revenate platform.
Cool, thank you. I'm William Cotter, Managing Director of Net Affinity, booking engine provider based in Dublin. Yep, very happy to be here and have the opportunity to share our learnings and experiences, particularly over the last 12 months with everybody, and also share what we're seeing for the year ahead. So yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for the introductions. I think it's great to get everyone's background, and I love the fact that this morning we have representation from all the different sides. We have the hotel side, the booking engine provider, the technology provider. So I think it's going to really enhance our conversation this morning, giving those different perspectives to the topics we're going to be discussing. So I suppose as Fitzwilliam Hotel Belfast is the focus of our conversation, I'm going to go to you first, Lucy. Maybe you can bring us up to date with what the current situation is in Northern Ireland regarding COVID and maybe what your expected opening date is.
Yeah, so thankfully we've actually got a date for opening now, for the 24th of May. So we're delighted with that. I suppose in Belfast at the minute we are hopefully opening our outside bars and restaurants on the 30th of April, and then our inside dining and obviously hotels and then opening on the 24th. So far so good. Positive outlook for hospitality in Northern Ireland, and yeah, just delighted to actually have a date.
Yeah, that's great. I think we all need the bit of positivity, definitely. And William, we don't have a definite opening date here as yet, but I think we're beginning to see, I suppose, some glimmers of hope in terms of the booking levels, especially in the past week or so.
Yeah, definitely the dynamics are much different, and we're very envious of our friends in Northern Ireland and the UK, where they have a very definite date to work toward. Certainly for us in Ireland, in the southern part, I mean, it's the dynamics are quite different. As many of you may know, we've been in full lockdown since the start of January, and we're still in that situation. There has been some easing of restrictions on people. We were restricted, let's say, up to 5 kilometers, and that has eased now, let's say, in the last couple of weeks. And I suppose there's an expectation that, say, from next week onwards, you open air heritage places and golf, any outdoor activities, they can certainly resume from next week onwards. We have gotten some sort of clarity as to when hotels will be opening, and we're told it's June, but we don't have a firm date on it. So yeah, I think we seem to be kind of tracking about kind of 5-6 weeks behind Northern Ireland in terms of, let's say, their opening. So yeah, we're kind of pinning our hopes on like a mid-June open date for opening for hotels.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So the other thing, it just as you're alluding to, certainly the demand, the summer demand is very strong. We can certainly see the business on the books for the North UK and certainly for the South. That the demand, certainly for Northern Ireland from April onwards, there's definitely a nice pickup in demand there, and and certainly from the time that the hotels are opening from May onwards. And then for the Republic, then say for hotels from July onwards, demand is definitely very strong. There's a strong demand for people who are staycationing and just to and book direct, which we'll touch on a little bit.
Yeah, I think staycation is definitely the buzzword of 2021, as it was, I think, last summer as well. But I suppose I'm interested, Lucy, in terms of what you guys are seeing at Fitzwilliam Hotel Belfast in terms of the staycation market, because I suppose you're a five-star city centre property, and as we know, I suppose particularly as we saw a lot, in Dublin, and that the city centre properties, suffered quite a lot more than some of the other resort and coastal properties. So I suppose, are you guys getting staycation business, or is that coming into you at the moment?
Yeah, we are, which is great. I suppose since we got the date, it gave us something to work towards. So we were able to go out with campaigns to say that we were open for bookings. I think a lot of people sort of thought because we were open for essential business in between times, they thought they couldn't book us. But now, obviously, with the date and going out with direct marketing, we are seeing a lot of bookings coming in. I suppose before Christmas, we probably saw a shift in our dynamics since lockdown 1, which was like so long ago. And our dynamic was sort of a younger demographic to what we were seeing before. But actually now there is a bit of a mixture coming up. We are seeing more, I think, couples more at the minute, some families, and obviously now more like a two night, 3 night stay, which beforehand would probably been more of just a 1 or 2 night. It's now increased to a 2 or 3 night, which is great to see. And obviously people are looking for the staycation. They're looking for getting out and about, and now things are opening up, attractions and things too. Now we will see, and we're able to offer that to guests coming. They are able to explore the city now that they come to stay, and things are opening up, which is great.
Great. Yeah, I think, I suppose a lot of us, when we hear the word staycation, we think of the traditional family bookings. But I suppose for the other hotels, it's remembering that staycation is more than that. And, there's obviously the couples and, the younger ones and the older ones, they're still staycationers. And I suppose like hotels like yourself, the city centre properties will, I suppose, appeal to them maybe more so, especially like that, like you said, the younger people who may not be going to obviously the bigger family hotels. So I suppose it's about people examining who their guests are and how they can best appeal to them. So that's interesting. And I suppose, William, then in terms of the staycation trends that we're seeing at Net Affinity, have you got any that you'd like to
Insights.
highlight?
Yeah, share with you. Yeah.
Yes,
No,
yeah.
look, definitely the staycation demand is very strong. As we know, there's a huge pent-up demand for people. People are very keen to just get out and about and trying to get back to some semblance of normality in their lives. And definitely, we're seeing certainly for, let's say, resort and self-catering properties, they're benefiting the most from it. Even things like, people are booking family get-togethers, special occasion events, and they're, booking a self-catering unit, I guess, to celebrate these events. We're certainly seeing that people are less price conscious, as they're going through the booking process, and they're very willing to upgrade, if the opportunities are there for them, to upgrade or upsell, say, and yeah, definitely the mature travelers, it's a strong segment and definitely one to watch, I would think, certainly for the rest of the year, And I suppose kind of related, we touched on it a little bit earlier, is the strong shift to book direct, it was very strong in 2020, and it's definitely continuing for 2021. And I suppose the reasons around it is, people are trying to have more security, and control over their booking. And particularly things around having more clarity and flexibility on the cancellation side of things, and also just getting the latest news on any kind of, let's say, COVID restrictions that might be in place, let's say, for the property or the location that they're going to, But yeah, definitely people are preferring to book direct, which is, like a very nice positive thing for properties. And I suppose it's just, I suppose, to try and encourage people attending today, but certainly all of our clients, to capitalize on it as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, I think, you're right. It's trying to maintain that now, going forward, because I suppose, past the summer, if things start to get challenging again, I think hotels just need to remember that they can get those direct bookers. So it's just maintaining what they're doing now in terms of pushing those messages and those benefits to guests of booking direct. So I suppose that's great to kind of get, I suppose, the overview of the market from you guys. And I suppose in terms of our chat today, we're focusing on guest engagement and in particular the use of CRM systems. So Will, just to bring you in here as our CRM guru, you might just briefly explain CRM systems to our listeners, because I think sometimes there can be a little bit of confusion around, what it is. Like I was asked the other day, the difference between a CRM system and a CRS system. So it would be good to get a little brief explainer, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, people are still getting confused over CRS and CRM. There's a very, very big difference. And I think other industries do CRM a lot better than the hotel industry. We're getting there, but I think it's part technology improving and part the awareness. Both need to keep going. So in answer to the question of what the CRS is, well, the CRS is central reservation system. That's channeling your bookings, right? That's taking it from different channels, putting it into your PMS. That's something very different to the CRM. The CRM is actually about the relationship management. So think of it as your PMS manages your beds, your CRS manages the channels, but the CRM manages the guest. So CRM really is about guest data. It's about bringing all of the guest data together. Who are they? Where they're from? What are their preferences? What segment are they in? How many times have they stayed with you before? Do they have a dog? What's the dog called? All of this data that you want to build about your guest. And then from there, you create this sort of framework of communication. So automation of communication, inspiration messages, confirmation emails pre-arrival with upsells, etc. And that, in theory, should be built out to capture guest data and keep those guests coming back again and again. So that's my as brief as I can be.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Yeah, no, it's a good, I think, like that to get people's understanding. And I suppose in terms of hotels, maybe, lacking behind a little bit in terms of grasping it. I think in their defense, as I kind of read a few days ago, it's hoteliers, they got into the hotel business because they love people, not technology. So I suppose it's like that, people come first, and it's how getting to know the people can, with the technology can help you, I suppose, do that. So
on the other hand, hoteliers get it, and my in-laws are hoteliers. They run a hotel, so I see it firsthand. They got into the industry because they love people, but they also work with technology companies for a long time. If you think about Expedia and Booking.com, they're technology companies first and foremost.
Yes.
So it's technology has lingered in the industry for a long time, and I think only recently it started to become something actually beneficial for hoteliers if used properly. So it's definitely something that needs to be taken seriously.
Very good. And Lucy, for Fitzwilliam Hotel Belfast, then how long have you guys been using a CRM system?
So we've had a CRM system, I think, coming on 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, and then in the last 4 years we've changed. Now we actually are with Revenate. So we have changed over to Revenate for the post and pre-stay surveys, as well as the marketing side of things.
Brilliant. And what would you see kind of as the main benefits of using it in the hotel?
There's so many. I guess it gives us a greater understanding of our guests and the opportunity to build relationships with them. It also gives us an insight into how they book, like what channels are they booking from. We're able to see, like, are they coming through our website? Are they booking over the phone? Are they coming through a third-party site? And then it gives us the opportunity with that information to say they are booking through a third-party site, to capture their guest information for our own personal use to have on file ourselves, to target them directly then. It also gives us the opportunity to see how engaged they are with our marketing that we send out. Obviously, if we're not doing a good job, we're able to see if they're not picking up on our marketing activity. And then the best thing I find from it is that we're able to segment our database to create more targeted and more personalized campaigns to them to drive more direct bookings in.
Okay, great. And Will, then, is there any kind of further benefits you'd like to highlight in terms of hotels using a CRM system?
I think Lucy gave a really good overview there. Where would I add from that? I suppose if you're multiple properties and you have data in many different silos, maybe you have sales teams go to events, pre-pandemic, and have Excel sheets of data, and you have a POS system, and all of these things add up, right? And you start to have data. When I say data, what is it? It's like email address and names and that sort of thing in so many different places. I suppose the real value of having a CRM system is unifying all of that data, putting it all in one place, so you can start to do everything that Lucy just mentioned.
Okay, great. And then I suppose I wanted to touch as well, I suppose, in terms of people's perceptions of CRM systems. I suppose as Net Affinity partners with hundreds of hotels, what do you feel is the general perception around CRM systems amongst hoteliers, William?
Yeah, it's probably an awareness thing, Olive. I mean, certainly from our side, we'd be very strong advocates of the importance of a CRM system in terms of what it can deliver to a hotel, from an ROI perspective. We're very clear in our minds that CRMs, they're it's an excellent tool if you want to kind of, segment, personalize, and communicate with guests or prospective guests on a regular basis. And I think maybe hotels don't fully understand, what a CRM system is, but also, the many benefits that it can deliver to their business. And, and if we look at let's say our client base, if we take the total population, I would say maybe 10% of our clients are using a CRM system. But if you start to segment that base and you look at your 5-star category, and you'll find that 80% of those clients are using a CRM system. And then if you go down, say, to the 4-star category, it's somewhere between 65 and 75%, say. So clearly, the properties at that level, get it, and they understand the importance and the value that a CRM system can deliver for their business, and those real tangible ROIs on the investment. So, yeah, I think for us, I say, strong advocates of it, and certainly from a direct booking perspective, there's clear tangible benefits for a hotel once they're fully up and running and engaging using the CRM system.
Okay. And Will, what do you feel the hotelier perceptions are? I suppose you're quite close to it as well, obviously.
Yeah, I speak to hoteliers a lot as well. And I think the interesting thing is that hotels that have the resources are able to put some resources to exploring technology, right? Hotels that have, marketing manager or operations manager can actually say to these people, okay, go out there and look in the market. What are the good bits of technology? Also comes with maybe an adoption thing as well. How good are people naturally at adopting new things? We all know that people are not great with change. So it does take also a certain type of hotelier in that situation to also be open to new change and new technology, because technology changes so quickly, right? If you look at your iPhone now compared to 5 years ago, no one would touch an iPhone 6, right? If you went into Vodafone now and you said, hey, can I have an iPhone? They said, here's an iPhone 6, you'd say no. And that's the same with technology for hotels, and it's rapidly developing. So I think when it comes to the adoption of CRM, it's the hotels that have had the resources, but also those resources who have been willing to be open and try new bits of technology. They've really taken it on and succeeded with it to begin with. And I think we're at the start of that journey. I think if you go ahead 10 years, the majority of hotels will have these systems, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. And then say for some of the smaller properties who may be, I suppose, concerned that, that they couldn't afford a CRM system, is there any kind of bare minimum that they should have in place, or what kind of advice would you give to those hotels?
My advice would be, look at your annual budget. Well, firstly, some technology drives revenue, some technology drives other things. CRM is driving revenue, ultimately. It's getting your guests back in the hotel direct. It's upgrading them, it's upselling them, it's adding ancillary revenue. So it really is a revenue driver. So you can think of it that way. If you're worried about the initial investment, as I just mentioned, as I sort of said, look at your budget, look how much you're paying in commissions to Booking.com or Expedia, and have a think. In 6 months or 12 months, if I could lower that by 75% by taking that investment and putting it into a CRM system, is it worth it? And that's the question that I'd encourage smaller hotels to ask themselves.
Okay. great. And then, Lisa, I just wanted to chat to you then, just in terms of your use of the CRM system, particularly in the past year. Has that changed, obviously, with the pandemic, and how has it helped you, I suppose, during this time?
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely changed in terms of the content we've sent out with it. Obviously, aside from our accommodation offers, which we sent out when we first locked down, reopening offers and things like that, it then shifted to just keeping in touch with our guests, informing them of what was going on in the hotel. And then I suppose more recently, we used it to sort of localize campaigns.
Okay.
So like our Fitzwilliam afternoon tea to go, and we sent out campaigns to inform our local guests that we were offering this collection of afternoon tea service. So I guess it's changed. It's done a full 360 as to what we primarily used it for. Excuse me. And then now it's certainly a variety of things we use it for, and it's we couldn't do without it.
Yeah. I suppose it's similar in some ways to hotels' use of things like, Facebook for advertising. It's just at the moment maybe keeping up their engagement through social. They mightn't be doing the hard sell as much, maybe particularly a few months ago. But it was very much a platform to keep engaged. So it's similar for CRM system. You're letting people know that you're still here, and it's just, I suppose, they don't forget about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms of guests that maybe aren't on our social media platforms, it's sort of
Yes.
making sure we're capturing all markets.
Yeah, that's true. And then, Will, have you found that your clients are using it in a different way over the past year?
Yeah, we've seen some amazing creativity during the pandemic. Really, it's been amazing to see some of the properties like thinking outside the box and coming up with new ways to speak to their guests. A CRM system gives you a voice to your guests. Typically, your voice as a hotelier is physical. It's in person. It's when they're on property and it's saying, "Hi, welcome to the hotel," or it's via Booking.com or TripAdvisor or something. The CRM system really is the voice of the guest. And during the pandemic, this has been the most ring-fenced technology that our clients have had. They've let go of other things like agencies or other bits of technology, but the CRM in general, we've had to be pretty flexible when it comes to sometimes with invoices and stuff, because the pandemic's been pretty tough. But hotels, like we said, haven't wanted to lose it because it's been able to keep their guests informed and talk to them while they're closed. Do you want a couple of examples? Olive?
Yeah, it'd be great actually. Yeah, if you have anything, that
Sure.
I suppose it's good to get the examples because people love to hear.
Yeah. Okay, so I won't name names.
No, that's okay.
They'd like me to, but we had one hotel in the Midlands who, so at the start of the pandemic, the UK put all of their regions into tiers, right? So tier 1, 2, 3, and then they invented tier 4 and 5. I don't know how many there are now. But what one hotel did, and a few other hotels have copied this, is they recreated these tiers in Revenate. They went into their segments, they built tier 1, and then they selected all the regions which actually sort of mirrored the government's regions in Revenate, and then they did that with tier 2, with tier 3 and 4. And so what they could do then is actually speak to those people in those tiers and say, "Hey, you're in tier 2. That means that you can, come and visit our restaurant. Click here and make a booking," for example. And when those tiers changed, so when your region went from tier 3 to 1 or something, then they could be straight away on it and message that tier and say, "Hey, great, you're in tier 1. You're free to come and stay with us. Click on the link, come and book your stay. Book direct, use this link, whatever, get something when you arrive." So that level of creativity has been fantastic to see. We've also seen a lot of dinner boxes. Hotels have been thinking of different ways to make revenue, using the kitchen to send out dinner boxes. We've seen a lot of hotels going into Revenate and finding any guest that's had a previous time in the restaurant, or any guest that said in a preference message, "I'm interested in dinner," or "I'm interested in food," and then targeting those guests with specific dinner box offers, which then as a result, you see way more engagement in those emails. And that kind of takes it back to the question of why email, right? It's if you've got people listening now who are thinking, yeah, but why do we email? Well, email is the single unifier data point when it comes to guests. If you make a flight booking, if you buy some shoes online, it's an email that you get. They don't send you a text, they don't send you a letter, it's always the email. And they do that because it's the unifier of your data. And it's why, Facebook or whoever, they want your email first, because your email is how they track you. So from the email, they track everything else, all the behavior, the things that you purchase, the things that you click on, but it's always the email. And it's the same applies to the hotel industry. If you're able to capture the email, everything else is built on top of that. If you can't capture the email, you can never build a proper view of that guest, because you can never actually see anything about the guest. And it's why the OTA question is it's why they mask their email addresses. Booking.com don't want you to give you their email address, because they know that you're going to message the guest and get them to book direct. No, they want to keep the email address so that they can message the guest direct, and they can get the booking, and then they can charge you the however many % commission that you're paying. And the name of the game really is breaking that cycle. And I've mentioned this time and time again. To really truly regain control of your growth as a business, you need direct bookings. And there's many things on top of that why direct bookings are better. They spend more in the restaurant, they leave you better reviews. They're typically happier guests because they buy into the idea of your business and your organization. But ultimately, from a revenue perspective, it's sort of 10, 15, 20, maybe more % extra revenue. But to actually break that cycle, you need the guest email. And that's why it's so critical as part of this CRM journey is asking for that email, whether it's in the confirmation or it's pre-arrival or wherever. It's about building that email. So slightly off tangent there, but that's a really important thing for anybody that's getting into this stuff to know.
Yeah, and it's good to see, I suppose, some of the creative examples that hotels have been getting up to. But have you found you've been contacted by clients going, maybe who don't have the creativity, going, what do I do now? Or are they getting in touch looking for inspiration or asking for advice from you guys?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things with Revenate is we try to be as cooperative in our approach as possible, as wanted or needed. And that includes, having conversations about strategies and sort of campaigns that we see working across the market, which we could maybe share with other customers. We've done a lot of webinars as well. We've done a lot of case studies that we've released on the site, just to try to help inform. We actually set up our own COVID-19 website, which was just a sort of free resource. We took all of our resources and we just dumped it on this site, and it's not branded as Revenate or anything. It's just a free to use site, just in the hope that it might help educate the industry a bit when it comes to CRM and how to communicate to guests as best as possible.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, very good. And I suppose in terms of advice to a hotel, if they were looking to review their guest engagement strategy, what kind of things should they consider?
From me, I would say it all starts with your data. If you've got bad data, you're going to really struggle to do anything else. So you might build out this amazing map, and you might say, I want to send them a pre-arrival, offer them these upsells, and I want to capture their reviews and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't have their email address or their first name, last name, or a bit of extra information about them, you're going to really struggle. So get the data right first. Don't worry about your historical data too much. 2 years is probably enough, maybe 3, because of the last year we've kind of lost. But don't worry about decades old data. It's probably out of date. And then think about from this point forward, how can I capture the data as best as possible? If you don't want a CRM system, it becomes more difficult, but it's still possible. But obviously then manpower is going into trying to figure all that stuff out yourself. But it starts with your data. what I
Okay,
would say.
great. And Lucy, you're probably in agreement with this. Is this from your side, Lucy? The CRM system do you see it as a kind of how much time do you have to invest in the CRM system?
Definitely.
Maybe,
Yeah, I don't think you're ever done. Sort of
yeah.
updating your guest data. I think I
Mm.
agree. Well, like you have to make sure that how healthy is your database that you have, and do you have correct emails for people, and the country where they're staying, where they're from, date of birth, anything like that you can really home in on whenever you're creating targeted campaigns. Because I guess it makes it more personal going forward when you are creating campaigns for that certain market or person.
And so, and there at the hotel, would it, it's more than just yourself in terms of the staff who are using the CRM system. I assume there's most of the team is involved in updating it.
They are indeed, yeah. And I suppose the main thing would be our front office team. We're at capturing, we have an arrivals report through our system, and they are super at it'll tell us basically if a guest is checking in that day that doesn't have an email address, or if they're booked for a third-party site. It gives our team the opportunity to capture that email address on check-in, and that's updated in our system and back into the platform for us to use.
Okay, yeah, so you really need everyone's buy-in really in terms of at a hotel level, don't you? Yeah.
I would say also encourage that buy-in, explain to the teams why it's important, because sometimes just telling people you need to capture their email address, they don't really understand why that's important, what impact that has. But if you can maybe give them that insight into, actually, if we get 100% of our emails correct for the next 12 months, for example, that might be like a 40% increase in revenue the following year, and then we can have an even bigger Christmas party,
Yes,
if you sort of
make it tangible.
It really is that straightforward, right? It's yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, for hotels, it's good to communicate, the why, and not just kind of dictating, an action. It's kind of getting people to understand the reason and, like I said, the return on investment and what that means for a hotel, which is great. So I'd love to get some examples, Lucy, of how the CRM system has worked for you.
Yeah, of course. I suppose a couple of campaigns we've done recently. We did a welcome back offer in the summertime for our guests.
This is after the lockdown lifted, is it? Just to get,
yeah, sorry,
yeah,
crucial point. Lockdown lifted, and we were given a date for reopening. We went out with a welcome back offer.
Okay.
Who had stayed. We were reopening in the summertime. It was guests who had stayed in the last 2 years and had stayed July and August, September. Targeted campaign to those guests, and we saw, I think it was a 40% open rate, which was brilliant for us. And it was a really successful campaign in terms of direct bookings that way.
Great.
We did another book direct offer, which is a Black Friday campaign. We did it in November for guests staying December to January. Again, targeted campaign to past guests. And it was a midweek break, so it was guests who had stayed, segmented them down to being midweek stays, had stayed the past 2 years in December and January, so most likely would hopefully book again. And it had, I think it was nearly a 60% open rate, which is crazy for us in hospitality. It's quite a high open rate for an email, and sold all rooms.
Very good. Great.
The last one I'd mentioned before, I think about doing a Fits to Go afternoon tea package. It was sent out for an Easter campaign for Easter weekend, collection Saturday and Sunday, and sent to local guests in the area. We sold out afternoon tea in the weekend. So
brilliant, very good. Yeah. So you guys, in terms of the metrics, you look at the open rate, and then you look at the revenue that's come in. Yeah, and I suppose in terms of the system itself, then it's quite easy to work out the return on investment, what you're paying versus overall the return on all your campaigns, which I suppose is crucial. And I suppose that's to why you've been using a CRM system for 10 years, because clearly it's working for you guys. Yeah, which is great. Will, do you have any other kind of examples that would be good for us to hear about in terms of CRM in action? And
Yeah. I think we shared some examples with you before. I don't know if you want to share those and share that screen or not. But we've yeah, is that something that you can share?
Don't have it
I
just yeah, I don't have it just here now.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, no worries. But no, I think yeah, in terms of tracking, like Lucy mentioned, it's not just like open rate, click-through rates and stuff like that, but we also go a little further and we see when guests actually previously stayed, what the lead times of those bookings were as well. So one of the things I find quite interesting with that is that you've got your revenue manager and your marketing manager both, maybe coming up with campaigns to send out, promotions to send out, but the revenue manager wants to know, who booked it and when did they stay and is it the right type of audience and how much does it generate and stuff like that. And so the fact that the system tracks that, I think, hopefully makes that relationship between the revenue manager and the marketing manager better and easier. In terms of examples that we've seen during COVID, it more or less mirrors a lot of what Lucy said, which is a lot of updates from the general managers. We've seen that a lot. We've seen the welcome back messages, the can't wait to have you messages. All these sort of things, we're seeing amazing revenue attributed to it. It really is quite fantastic. And it sort of goes to show, if you don't ask, you don't get. As I say from Yorkshire, from where I'm from, if you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't ask your guests to come and stay with you, then you're not going to get the bookings at this stage.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I think we do have a few things to share. I don't know if you want me to share my screen. I could show you some campaign examples.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That have been sent out.
Great.
If that works.
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
So this is a property in northwest England called Northcote. And this, I love this because it was segmented, it was targeted at a specific niche, had a great subject line at last. It's not personal subject line. That is possible. You could personalize it with a name in there, for example. But it's really nice. At last, it's time to start making plans. Sent out on the 4th of March, just after the announcement from the UK government. And it went out from the head chef there and from the GM, or maybe it's the owner. And as you can see, so freedom is just around the corner. Some text, some information, and then at the bottom, of course, you've got the MD's signature, your call to action buttons, so book your stay or book your table, a little bit of Corona information, and then they've even added on something for Mother's Day as well, linking it back around to that seasonal calendar, which is really, really important if you're using these, using a CRM system. Have that annual calendar, know all of your important dates like Mother's Day, and make sure those campaigns are going out. And then a bit of information about the property at the bottom there. But as you can see at the top, it generated tons of revenue and it was really successful, and we're really happy with that.
Yeah, great. It's good to have some case studies, and I think that's what people like to see, how things have worked. So that's great. And it's been great. It's been great chatting to you guys. As personally, I've always been a huge advocate of CRM systems and the opportunities that they offer for hotels to engage with guests on a whole new level. I suppose in particular, what I loved to hear about today was the value that CRM systems have brought over the past 12 months, I suppose, because that's when hotels have been at maybe one of their lowest levels in a long time, and just the way that the CRM system has supported them and helped to bring them direct bookings. And like I said, I hope that's something that can be sustained in the coming months. And I loved hearing the success stories from you as well, Lucy. So those are my closing words. I'll finish by asking if there's any closing words from yourselves or any advice or words of positivity for hotels who are listening today. So maybe Lucy, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think I would just come back to the guest data and just reviewing it and checking it is as healthy as it can be, and having a strong book direct message when you're going out with a campaign. Like, why should people book direct with you? And just encourage the words of what I went off on a tangent there. I would just say the benefits of booking direct. You know, what are your benefits, and know what they are, and deliver them on arrival to guests. And I think that will in turn get repeat guests. And then about the OTA bookings, I would definitely look at capturing, once you have a guest in who is booked through a third party site, just try your best to capture their personal email address and details for yourself, so that you can target them through your own CRM.
Yeah, great. And I think, for hotels to remember, like, those repeat customers, you know, they're your most valuable ones, and they're your best salespeople, essentially, aren't they?
Yeah.
Great. And Will, any closing words or advice to offer?
First of all, thank you, Affinity, for having me and Revenate on here. It's been really, really enjoyable. I think closing words for me is, 20 years ago, the OTA industry was born. Booking.com here in Amsterdam, two guys created it. It was a technology disruptor 20 years ago. We have to remember that. They were a disruptive technology. And I like to think that the industry has come full circle now, and we have technology disruptors again, but this time, instead of taking commission off the properties, they're driving bookings direct to the properties. All we need now is the properties to sort of spend a little bit of time looking into it and sort of adopting it, taking that mindset of thinking, this is technology, it can actually benefit me, and it can make me or deliver me a sustainable business model in the future. And ultimately, that's what everyone wants, right? We want direct business, we want a sustainable business model, happy hoteliers and happy guests.
Great, I love that positivity. Thank you, Will. And William, yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Olive. I like something that Will mentioned earlier, where he said CRM gives you a voice and certainly gives you the opportunity to be as creative as you wish. And I certainly liked the North Coast example, where they were saying, freedom is just around the corner. And I guess in my mind, it's something that I'm very mindful of myself, in terms of where the consumer's mind is at right now, and there definitely has been quite a seismic shift in consumer sentiment, which has largely been driven by COVID and how much it has impacted on our lives. And as we know, COVID has caused us just to pause and reevaluate what's important to us. And I think it's certainly for us as hoteliers, we need to understand these changes, and because they significantly impact on the guest and their buying or booking behavior, and it's clear that guests, want to relate to brands in a much more personal and human way. They want to engage with brands that value things like, say, social impact, and where possible, they want to see their own values reflected in the brand's content, and language, things like mindful and sensory and local experiences, is something that is top of mind for consumers. So I think it's just, I suppose, just to summarize it, it is something just for all of us as hoteliers to be mindful of, particularly when we're communicating with clients via our CRM system.
Great, thanks very much. And before we sign off, I think we have one or two questions actually that have come in. So the first one is, how do you deal with GDPR if guests don't tick or agree to allow you to email or send data? So Will, you might be best placed to
I can take that one. To be honest, it's actually the opposite from what you're probably expecting. It's a good thing. GDPR has been a great thing for the industry, because what it means is you're able to kick out all of the people who are not interested. And that's where this sort of double opt-in idea comes from. So making sure that people who sign up to your database are actually interested in your hotel. Because the worst thing that you can get is sending out emails to people who are not interested, and they're just going to unsubscribe, which damages your sender score. It's a bit like a credit rating. It's your sender score that ranks how good you are at sending emails. So embrace GDPR. Ask your guests, are you interested? And if they're not, fine, no problem. That's good. Move and target the ones who are interested.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and then there's just another one here. Would you have any tips or advice for small rural hotels? So I suppose it's quite a broad question, but
yeah,
again.
I think I could answer this. I think Lucy mentioned it as well. Small rural, I'll interpret that as, you know, smaller resources, smaller budgets. Again, go back to the basics. Look at your PMS data. Maybe pull a report and see what condition it's in. See if you can get that cleaned up and merged and test it. Try and segment it a little bit. If you don't have a CRM system, it's going to be harder, but you can still try and manually segment that and maybe test how it works, sending emails to those different segments. Yeah, I'd say that if you don't have a CRM system, go back to the basics, think about your data and think about how you can divide it up and speak to them individually.
Great, thanks. Another question. Do you have any tips on capturing crucial data for the guest? For example, certain information in your examples mentioned earlier are not necessarily data you may capture as easily postal addresses to pinpoint their distance from the property, or even email addresses for restaurant clients. So yeah, I suppose maybe the data outside what your standard data is, maybe advice for capturing that.
Ask them is the most obvious way, but probably build it into the automation. I don't know, Lucy, if you use the pre-arrival preference questionnaire where you're saying like, you know, hey, you're coming to stay with us. Lucy, we can't wait to have you at the hotel. What are you interested in when you come and stay with us? And you can design it how you want, but if it's like post addresses or location, just ask them. And you probably find 50% won't fill it in, but 50% will. And they're the ones that are engaged and probably more likely to come back anyway.
Yeah, we also have that on our newsletter sign up form on our website in terms of, you know, the drop down options that people can select if they're interested in dining or.
Okay. Would I be right in saying as well, like, you know, I suppose the more buy-in, as we mentioned earlier, that you have from all staff in the hotel. So if they hear, you know, I guess to mention a dog perhaps, or a question, you know, if you accommodate pets in the hotel, so that kind of information can be put in into the CRM system, I suppose, as people capture it, maybe not in a structured way, but maybe through just engaging with the guest when they're on property. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
You're right.
Yeah. Okay, then I don't know if there's any more questions. Let me have a quick.
There was one that I just typed message back.
Yeah,
it was, can you add previous guest information to the CRM to Revenate, or does it just begin from the day you start? No, we do pull historical data, and that comes in. How much historical data is up to you, but we typically advise about 2 or 3 years historical data.
Okay, great. Okay, I think that concludes today. So just thanks to everyone for joining, to you guys on the panel, and to everyone else for listening in. So take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Olive. Thanks, Will. Thanks, Lucy.
Bye.
Be good now. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.